Hey everybody, it's Jackson Lamb. You know, if you can hear this chime going in the background, we're expecting a big cold front coming in tonight. They call it a polar vortex. This is May 7th. Polar vortex? What the heck does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to be getting a freeze maybe tonight. They advertise that tonight it might get down to 34. Well, I'll tell you what, that's a little too close for comfort for me. So let's take a walk over here. You can hear the chime in the background there. But, you know, as we take a look at everything that we've just planted here over the last week, and I have been saying it's not good to plant before the 15th of May. So now we have a problem. What do? We've got this polar vortex bringing in cold air into Colorado, and it's probably going to be a tough one. So anyway, what we will do is, I'll tell you what, any good farmer is prepared. Let me tell you that. So I'm going to tell you what we will do. This container garden, what's nice about it is all the containers are 2 feet wide. And so we're going to start over here. And in this section here, you know, this is strictly ornamental. I'm going to get this out of the way for now. And I'm just going to lay that down. But, you know, if you can see this, I have found some old sawhorses that I used to have. So, you know, we're using those. And I'm going to cover this up with a piece of particle board that will give us all the protection that we need. So excuse me while I just muscle that into place. You know, I want to do this in a certain way. I'm going to come over here, and as the camera follows me, there you go. I'm going to freeze the camera right there. But what we will do is we're going to cover this section of the garden with a piece of 8-foot plywood. Oh, check this out. Okay. So we're just getting started here. I'll turn this back on. You can follow me. We're going to go over the other side over here. And as we come down to this side of the garden, the whole idea is we want to cover everything that we possibly can. So check this out. I've got these collapsible sawhorses. So we're going to start setting these up. 1, 2, 3. So I'll put one here. I'm going to put the next one here. I can put the next one here. And moving a little closer, I'll put the next one here. All right. So once we've got this set up, what we need to see is that as we come down here, you know, I've got this tomato cage that I put in here earlier in the week. Right now, it's strictly ornamental. You know, if we're going to get a freeze tonight, I don't need this in the way. Get out of here. Let's move down the next one. Same thing. I don't need this ornamental frame. Move down here. I don't need this one as well. So now that these are disposed of, what we want to do is we want to be able to cover all of these plants so that should a freeze come tonight, we're not going to be affected by it. I'm going to freeze the camera for a second here. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to adjust this camera so that You guys can see what I'm really doing down here. I think that's a good scene right there. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I've got a number of pieces of plywood. Well, I'm just gonna show you what I'm gonna do. I've got a number of pieces of plywood that are 2 feet wide by 8 feet long. And you can kind of hear the chime is clanging like crazy. That means that the nor'easter is coming. So what we want to do is, just like we've done down here at the end, I put that piece of plywood down. I'm going to put the next piece down, then the next piece down. And then by the time I'm done, I've got, well, I'll just keep on going. You'll see what I've got. So at this point in time, I've effectively, using sawhorses and plywood, I've created a rigid structure over all of my tomato plants as well as my tomatilla plants. I've got basil. I've got basil is there. I've got green onions down here. We've got a plethora of items going on. But I'll tell you what, if it comes in and freezes tonight, it's not enough. So check this out. All of my containers are 24 inches wide. The plywood is 24 inches wide. So far, so good. It's a match. Down here, I've got a number of they're old bed sheets is what they are. But if we open these up, and we got to spread them out, and before the sun goes down, and the sun's about to go down, after which it's going to get pretty cold, I'll tell you that. I'm going to open this up real quick here, and I'm going to spread this over the top. Wondering how the wind's going to help me or not help me here. But what we're doing here is we're going to just create a thermal break, if you will. So should that freeze come tonight, you know, we're just not going to be totally exposed to the, you know, it's, especially if there's humidity in the air, boy, that comes in and it's crushing. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're preserving all of the young growth that we've seen in all of our plants. You know, there's a term that you may have heard. It's called nip it in the bud. That's an agricultural term, and it has to do with this time of year when those sprouts are just starting to come out of the plants, and the plants are starting to bud. And when we don't want something to grow, we nip it in the bud. So, you know, sometimes that has political connotations, but it's really an ag term. Pretty interesting. So anyway, it looks like I'm kind of setting a table here for the Last Supper, but that's not the case at all. I'm going to line this up a little bit. I'm going to come back to my stash here of literally old sheets that have become beds, drop cloths. Hey, we don't throw anything out. That's something you should bear in mind. Everything is recyclable. Everything is got a repurpose. bear with me while I allow the wind to help me with this. You can probably see the blackness in here. I use this as a drop cloth when I'm spraying my garden furniture. But check this out. I'm just merely coming down here with old sheets, but it's just enough protection should the temperature drop below 32 degrees. I hope it doesn't. You know, they are predicting that it's going to drop down to 34. Man, that's pretty low. You know, I'm unfolding this one. This is actually a painter's drop cloth. This is much heavier than everything I've been using up to this point, but gets the job done. And I'll tell you what, I don't need to film myself laying out a drop cloth, but I do want to say that when we go to the point of putting together a container garden or a garden in the ground or for farming, we've got to be aware of Mother Nature, and we've got to be watching the calendar, and we've got to be watching the weather report just so that we're aware of what's coming, because we've got to take corrective action. That's what I'm doing right now. If it doesn't freeze tonight, no harm, no loss. But if it does freeze, I've protected my crops. Chef Jackson Lamb checking out for tonight. I got to go home and get a cup of hot chocolate. See you later, everybody.